first 2016 Republican presidential debate airs tomorrow night right here on the Fox News channel. So, how are the top 10 candidates preparing for the big event? Watch this.
I think all of us who are running owe voters an explanation about who we are, what we plan to do if we're elected. And that's what I plan to focus on. I hope that's what everyone will focus on.
What I really think that it works for me, and that is to be authentic, to know what I believe, to spend some time in prayer, spend some time not thinking about the debate.
Once you get on the stage, it's not going to matter whether you're number 1, number 5, or number 10. You're going to have the opportunity to make your pitch to the Republican primary voters across America. That's what I intend to do.
I'm going to talk about what I'm for. I think voters are tired of politicians who tell you what they're against and who they're against. They want to know what you're for.
I'm very much looking forward to the debates because, a lot of the information that has been disseminated about me is not true. And people will have an opportunity to say, wow, you mean this guy actually does know something about foreign policy?
And joining me now, one of the moderators for tomorrow's big debate, special report anchor, our friend Bret Baier. All right, Bret, some are predicting this could be the most watched primary debate in history. I don't know if it's true or not, but we're certainly going to have a big audience here. Does that make you a little nervous?
It makes us excited. I'm sure that when I get to tomorrow and get on the set and look at Megyn and Chris, we're going to be fired up, and there'll be some butterflies, definitely, because you want it to go off without a hitch. And there are a lot of variables, as we talked about the other night here on the show, that we're trying to, game out. But it's really exciting, I think, and there are so many things to talk about. We wish it was a 4-hour debate.
You know what? I bet they probably don't, but
you're
a pro.
Yeah.
I know you. You're going to do great. I know. But you have a challenge, though. You got 10 people. You have 2 hours. That's not a lot of time to get deep into the substance of, I'm sure, the things that you want to discuss. How do you manage that?
Well, you take a lot of the preamble, the talking points, out of, you try to, in the framing of the questions. So you kind of assume what they're going to say, and you build the questions that way. So that kind of tightens them up a little bit, hopefully. And, they have a minute, and then you have 30 seconds rebuttal time. If they mention another candidate, that person gets 30 seconds. It's going to move quickly. You're right. There's not a ton of time when you add in commercials. I guess it's about 110 minutes, 115 minutes. And we are going to be keeping real-time track of how much time each candidate talks, how many questions each candidate gets.
It's definitely challenging, but I know you'll do great. I had Donald Trump on my radio show earlier today. We were talking about the debate. Here's what he said.
There are a million questions. You can take all the questions. Now, if they're going to ask tricky wise guy questions, that would be very unfair in my opinion, because there's plenty of them you could ask too, and that would be very unfair. And I'm sure they'll be called out, whether it's me or somebody else, if they're going to ask, like let's study history from 22 years ago. So we're going to find out what they're going to ask. We're going to see if they're well intentioned or not.
All right, you're not planning any tricky wise guy questions, right, Bret?
I don't think the history from 22 years ago is a worry. I think there'll be some pointed questions that candidates, how they handle them. It'll be interesting. You remember last cycle where we had 5 primary debates, and we asked those kind of pointed, direct questions about somebody's record, something they've done or said, and hopefully it illuminates from there their ability to deal with, tough stuff. It's not an easy ride to the White House, as you know, and if you're going to possibly face a Clinton machine, you're going to have to face some tough questions along the way.
Really well said, Bret. It's going to be a great debate. Looking forward to it. You'll do a great job. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks, Sean.
And back with more reaction from the Weekly Standard, Stephen Hayes from the Washington Times, Charles Hurt, and associate editor, columnist for the Hill newspaper, A.B. Stoddard, is with us. A.B., let me go to the idea. That was kind of funny. Tricky, wise guy questions. I guess it's from I remember back in one of the last debates, Newt Gingrich a couple of times went after moderators in debate, and it seemed to be effective. The crowd responded more in Newt's favor.
Right. Well, obviously, the tricky wise guyness of the question is in the eye of the beholder, and there is a risk in jumping on the moderator. It can help you if the audience perceives the question to be unfair. For Newt Gingrich to turn around a question about his multiple marriages or his divorces to his benefit is pretty shrewd. And Donald Trump's going to have to really weigh that. I mean, if he is asked for substance and he doesn't give it, and he says, when I'm president, things are going to be terrific, and then he's asked for details again, he can't get testy. He's got to cough up some substantive answers. I don't think that's tricky or wise,
in a minute. I know, and this is the challenge I know Brett has and our moderators have, but I'm sure they'll do a good job. Stephen, let me go to you. We've talked a lot about Trump. Let's talk about the other candidates. Ted Cruz was a national debate champion. I think his message will resonate with the conservative crowd, probably more likely to show up. You've got governors like Walker and former Governor Bush, and you've got John Kasich, and Chris Christie is bold and outspoken, and all these guys on the stage. Maybe the most understated is Ben Carson because he's soft-spoken. So what do you expect from these guys?
Well, what's the old saying, quiet waters run deep? I think Ben Carson has a chance to make an impression by being quiet and by being different, particularly if it gets heated between Donald Trump and Jeb Bush or Donald Trump and Chris Christie. I think the answer for most of these candidates is the answer that they've actually been giving. This is not something where they feel like they have to actually make a huge impression on this first night at this first debate. Most of them anticipate being in future debates down the road and want to, I think, basically avoid screwing something up in a significant way.
And I would say, Charles, if I'm Marco Rubio or I'm Rand Paul, I'm going to want to be noticed in this debate.
Oh, and I think that's the number one question right now that each of these candidates has to determine right now. Do I go, do I try to go after Donald Trump, or do I try to make nice with him, or do I just try to ignore him? Because what has happened so far is people have kind of nobody's really landed a good punch on him, and he's kind of run away with it. But I think that I think that until they start landing punches on him, and as you have pointed out, I think it's going to be through by
Here's
picking
my prediction.
at certain issues.
They are going to stay as far away from him as they can possibly get, because I think there's a certain fear that might come back and burn him. So
there's a real dangerous it's a real dangerous thing to go in there and try to tangle with a guy like that who is so good at turning any situation to his advantage.
All right, guys, thank you so much for being with us. Appreciate it. It's going to be fun.